right, Glenn. I've been a fan of yours since CNN.
Really?
Today we're joined by actor Dennis Quaid, a man that not only brings Ronald Reagan to life on the silver screen in his new film, Reagan,
tear down this wall,
but who also shares a personal journey of restoration.
When I found myself in bad situations, it was all my own fault.
We talk about everything from cocaine.
It's fun, then it's fun with problems, and then it's just problems.
To Christ.
And I came to realize what a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, is all about.
But as we shoot the breeze here at my ranch, an old homestead brought back to life from the dust and echoes of the past, we're not just discussing a film, we're pondering whether the restoration Reagan believed in can still happen today. It was morning in America, Reagan once told us, a time of renewal, hope, and boundless opportunity. Is it morning in America now, or are we just mourning for America? Mourning for a spirit, a people, and a leadership that once defined us, but now seems like a distant memory.
The love of country that he had and all of that seems to be fading in popular culture. Communism is on the rise inside our country as well as all around the world. And it seems like we have to fight it all over again.
Well, I think that's America.
Are we just playing out a beautiful but ultimately futile melody on a piano, hoping the notes will somehow carry us back to a time that's long gone? And speaking of pianos, Dennis Quaid, always the entertainer, couldn't resist sitting down at a piano we have here and treating us to an impromptu performance. It was a moment that brought a smile, a bit of light in a conversation that at times feels like we're searching for something that might never be found again. The best is yet to come, Reagan once said. But is it? Or are we, as Americans, simply trying to find our way back to something we've lost forever? This is a special episode of the Glenn Beck Podcast, A Day at the Ranch with Dennis Quaid.
Ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right, Glenn. I've been a fan of yours since CNN.
Really?
The war on Christmas has only been getting worse. First it was the mangers, then it was the trees, and then the word itself.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
I never think of people like you, actually. I don't know. You don't think of people like you doing normal stuff.
Like watching TV?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or the news?
You're supposed to be doing
or whatever.
Yeah.
I was like, well, you were like the brand new voice on CNN when you came on there, and I'm sure you had a radio show going on before that, right? Yeah. And but it was watched you religiously actually,
wow.
And then all of a sudden you disappeared.
Yeah.
Just like that.
Yeah. It was funny. Clint Eastwood, he's on my bucket list, and I don't think I'm ever going to get that one checked off. He came into CNN on the day I was gone, and they had a poster of me, and he was walking with Larry King's people.
Yeah.
And he just stopped. That guy. I like that guy.
Yeah.
It's so great.
Yeah, nobody ever talked like you. Yeah, that was kind of about the time when you left. That really kind of pretty much coincided with this sort of real break. I mean, there had been...
Yeah, there'd been the
anyway,
Tea Party.
but like conservatives and liberals really lined up after that.
Yeah.
It was kind of like
Yeah.
prisoner exchange or something.
I know.
Yeah.
And I tried to use so much humor in the show, and I really thought people would have a sense of humor.
No, common sense is what you've done.
Yeah. So, watched your movie. Love it.
Thank you.
Absolutely love it.
Yeah.
How frightening was it to
Appreciate
take
it.
on Reagan?
It was the scariest role of my life, really. I mean, it's now my favorite movie that I've ever done. Before that was The Right Stuff. Mm. But I judge my movies by the time that I had while I was making them. It's a personal experience for me, So after 40 years, Reagan is now my favorite. But when they asked me to do it, I didn't say yes and I didn't say no. And, this fear went up my spine.
I bet.
Because Reagan was my favorite president. I had voted for Jimmy Carter in '76.
We all make a mistake.
Yes, but you know, at the time he was an outsider. It was post-Watergate and all that, you know, and what that was going to bring to Washington, which didn't get brought. Reagan was my favorite president. I voted for him, and I came home, and I had a roommate at the time, back in 1980. He said, "Who did you vote for?" I said, "Reagan." And he said, "You were kicked out of the hippies." That's really what he said. So I had to turn in my card and everything.
Yeah.
But
Kicked out of the hippies.
so, you know, I really so admired him, and he won the Cold War, and he was my dad's favorite president too. My dad had been talking about Ronald Reagan for president since back like 68, 64.
He was
In
fantastic.
fact, my first memory of Reagan, outside of him being the guy who sold Baraxo soap
Right.
on Death Valley days,
yeah.
was you know, being in the car with my dad going down to Galveston from Houston, which is where I'm from, and Reagan was giving the speech on the radio.
Choice?
Yeah.
Or the day of choosing or something?
day of time of choosing.
Yeah, time of choosing.
And my dad was like on the dashboard, you know, it was just like go Ronnie and stuff, and that was my
amazing
first
speech.
memory of him as a political figure.
Where then is the road to peace? Well, it's a simple answer after all. You and I have the courage to say to our enemies, there is a price we will not pay. There is a point beyond which they must not advance.
Inspiring.
Yeah. It really
I
is
like
an
the
incredible
fact-
speech.
Yeah, it is. And timely still today.
That was my first awareness of him as a political figure. And but you know, he was to take the role. Like I said, I had, you know, fear went up my spine because he's like Muhammad Ali. He's one of the probably one of the most recognized people all over the world. Period.
It's like Trump
has such an opinion about him, and I didn't want to do like an impersonation of him. He was he's, you know, probably my biggest hero in a way.
What is it about him that
He won the Cold War. We grew up getting under our desk at school because,
terrified?
you know, they were going to drop the bomb. I mean, it
know.
was going to happen.
I know.
And it came so close. The Cuban Missile Crisis, you know, we lived in Houston, and we were in that circle that they had of where, you know, those missiles could reach. And, you know, we were Space City. Of course they were going to hit us. And we got kept home from school for that. You know, and nobody had been able to make any progress with that until Reagan.
At the time, everybody, you know, everybody to the left, everyone is a monster, and you know.
Yeah, he was called a warmonger. You know, he was going to get us into a war for sure.
Yeah.
But you know, all we'd done with the Soviets was appease.
I know.
Kennedy, you know, and Khrushchev had, you know, they were communicating, and I thought that was handled well for the time that it was going to happen, because it was going to happen. But then, you know, at the time that Reagan entered office, it was very much afraid that it was going to happen again, and that it was predestined to happen in a way. The Soviets under Carter really built their military way up. Carter was, you know, I thought he did a great job in the Middle East of bringing Egypt and Israel together, but you know, we gave away the B-1 bomber. We just kept conceding stuff to him, and it, you know, the more that we gave away, the more I think they just kind of laughed at us.
Yeah.
And we're as Americans, I think Jimmy Carter, the Jimmy Carter administration exemplified the way the American people are in their heart. That we're peaceful at our heart. We want to live in harmony with the rest of the world, in allies, friendships, and but that's not the way the rest of the world is.
I know.
The rest of the world didn't grow up like we grew up. They grew up like, you know, like in the middle, in the Middle East, you know, and they are a product, like we're a product of the way we grew up.
Yeah.
And we don't have a chance against brutes like that.
We do if
we
like
have
Reagan.
somebody like Reagan.
Reagan was, I always wanted, you know, those those old westerns where the cowboy kind of has a twitchy eye, and you're like, I don't know. He might just kill us all right now, or we might be having a party in an hour.
Yeah.
That's what Reagan was. Reagan had that eye to where he was fun. He could be your best friend, but when he said something, you knew he meant it, and you were like,
at least 80%.
Yeah. He was a guy who you really thought he just might do it. Even the people in our own country.
Well, that's what the Soviets thought.
Yes.
I love. Well, but why do you think that the Iran hostages were released 20 minutes after he took office?
Yeah. I love the way that the movie portrays him and Gorbachev. And I know a lot of people that were in the room at the time with all of this stuff. And you nailed it. The story is accurate, the way it was told.
Well, we made sure about that. I mean, the only non-historical fact is that my dog Peaches is the family dog in the movie. She didn't have a bulldog, but that's about where it ends. So, I mean, even down to like his and Nancy's relationship, which is so central to the story. It's a love story as well.
So let me ask you, because this is one thing I thought about the movie. I don't know if people, let's say my son's age, 18 years old, 19 years old, is going to be able to relate to their relationship, because that is so odd for today's society, for the consuming society. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't see that kind of, and that was real.
Yeah, it was really real.
Right. They were like that, but it seems so unrealistic in today's world.
Well, even back in the 60s, it was kind of unrealistic in a way, because 50% of marriages were still breaking up. And they had, in fact, even Reagan was, divorced. He was married to Jane Wyman.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think he was our first divorced president. In fact, but they had a special thing, and I disagree with you about that, because I'm married to the greatest woman in the world.
No,
now, too.
I am too.
And I've been a dog in relationships before too, but it's great to be in one that.
I agree.
But
people don't
just
see that. They don't see that anymore. They might see it in their personal lives or everything, but in culture, that is not the image.
No, but
it should be.
Yeah, well, we don't have the culture has changed so much.
Yeah,
and, you're right. It's a consumer culture where everybody wants everything right now.
Yeah.
But I don't know. You go out into the middle of the country, and I see a lot of really great examples of relationships. That
I got this for my wife and I, our anniversary, written by Reagan. It's a quote from Thomas Jefferson.
Harmony is I should be able to read my own writing.
Yeah.
Harmony is the married state, right?
Yeah.
Married state with very first object to be aimed at is harmony.
Harmony in the marriage. Harmony in the marriage state is the very first object to be
aimed at.
Happiness by the. Gosh, I don't have my glasses. We're both so horrible.
We got short arms.
Happiness by the domestic. Something is
okay. Anyway, I figured we're into this now, Glenn. We're
in too deep.
So, by the domestic pressure, pursuit.
Yes,
is the first boon of heaven.
Yeah, isn't it great?
Yes. He wrote her
every day.
I love.
He wrote this for her.
Yeah.
This was
even
their
when he was in the
present.
hospital.
I know.
Assassination.
I know.
Yeah.
He gave this to her. They were having dinner with Prince Charles and Lady Diana,
Oh, really?
And on their anniversary, and he slipped it across the table door.
Oh, wow.
But they did right. And so have you read, what is it, Love You, Ronnie?
Yeah.
That's so great.
Yeah.
So great.
And Penelope Ann Miller, I mean, you saw the movie, she's just channeling Nancy, and incredible.
How many people love puppies, right? They're sweet, they're cuddly, they're great. What's not to love? But can you imagine pulling puppies out of their mother's womb limb by limb? The outrage that would ensue, and justifiable. But why are puppies more protected than babies? Preborn is the nation's leader in protecting the life of the unborn by introducing babies to their moms through an ultrasound. When they do that, the baby's chance at life doubles, and that's why Preborn and their network of clinics offer free ultrasounds to women with unplanned pregnancies in the highest abortion areas in the country. Through their good work, Preborn rescues 200 babies every day, and they don't stop there. They are a ministry of compassion, loving women and babies, offering assistance for up to 2 years. Now, if you consider yourself pro-life, it's time you help out the good work of Preborn. One ultrasound is $28, $140 can rescue up to 5 babies, and every baby deserves a chance at life, and every mom deserves a chance at happiness with their baby. Please donate your best gift today. Just dial pound 250, say the keyword baby. It's pound 250 keyword baby, or go to preborn.com/Glenn. It's preborn.com/Glenn.
So when you came over and you just hit the Steinway before we started, you were taught by Jerry Lee Lewis. Amazing. Yeah. When you play a character like this, and you're not a character, but a real person, and you're really trying to nail them, you have to have a relationship with them. Even if they're dead, you have a relationship with them.
Well, it gets down to the point, for me, what makes acting so fascinating is the psychology of it. What makes people tick, and who are they? And
so
that's what I we were starting to talk about when I was offered Reagan. I didn't turn it down, but I didn't say yes because I did want to do an impersonation, and then I didn't want to do a hero worship thing. It's about playing that person from their point of view, and to do that is to find out what makes them tick. And I feel like I have a responsibility to do that. And there was a part of Reagan in my research of it, of people who knew him, that there was kind of the great communicator. There was this unreachable, very private place in him that I think even Nancy felt to a certain extent, although she probably knew him the best. And I think that's where Reagan resided. I think it was his relationship with God. I think it was his most private thoughts, and probably a shield from the people around him, because he had so many people always, around him, at least in his political career. But I think this also went back to his childhood, where he could have that private place. And it's almost Japanese in that, that what they talk about, having the privacy in the midst of so much going on. I think part of that is what made him a great communicator. But getting to that is what I needed to get to, because I knew it was going to be really judged and stuff. And so I read several biographies, but I went to the Reagan Ranch. I got invited up there. That was the Western White House. That's where they lived. He bought that back after being governor of California.
Do you have any idea when I saw that scene, I thought, good heavens, at that time, how much did they pay for that? Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure. It was at the top of the hill, too. There's not a stream going through it. So I went there. A group of friends bought it after his passing, and they kept it exactly as it was. I mean, their clothes are in the closet. It's like you feel that they're going to come back any moment. But I went through first you go up 5 miles of the worst road in California to get to this place.
There's a lot of bad roads in California.
Yeah, this was bad. And went through the gate and come out, and you see the place and the house and the field and the fences and the pond. And I got Reagan. Right there, you can feel him. I realized that he was a humble man. He was not a rich man. And, go into the house. They had a king-size bed, but it was 2 single beds that were zip-tied together.
Oh, my God.
All the appliances are GE. He used to be the spokesman for GE, right? Yeah. And the house itself is maybe 1,100 square feet,
1,100 square feet.
Yeah. And you could feel that he really did do all the work around that place. And I think that's when I said yes to the role, was
after that trip.
After that.
I think that's what I liked about Reagan. He was just real. He worked. He could fit in on anything, but he seemed more at home at the ranch. And, you see these pictures of him, and I don't know. He's almost the Marlboro Man without the cigarettes.
He really was. He was like John Wayne.
Yeah.
Only, in his movie career, that role was taken by John Wayne. But I think he maybe studied John Wayne's walk a little bit.
Yeah.
Because
I never thought of that.
They walked a little bit like the same. They were all taught how to walk and talk and everything when they got to Hollywood in the mid-30s. And that was another interesting thing about Reagan, was that I look for things the way we all think of ourselves. He had to be that way too. Humans, we all have varying levels of self-esteem during certain periods of our life, and things that we go through that other people might think, oh well, he's successful, he's powerful, he's this or that, but inside your own person, all that matters is the way you feel. And I never thought I don't think Reagan ever got to the point of where he wanted to go as an actor.
Oh, yeah.
He was relegated to B movies, Jack Warner. And like I said, John Wayne, that role was already taken.
Right.
And then, he was married to Jane Wyman.
Boy, that was ugly.
Who was just coming up.
Yeah.
As his career was going down. And I mean, she won an Academy Award, like that. And I myself was in a similar situation like that with Meg. My career was like that when we met, and hers kind of went like that. And you could be generous with yourself or whatever, or say that doesn't hit you somewhere inside you, but it does. You're playing with that, and where you have this feeling like you were disappearing or whatever. And so that's something I could understand about, relate with him about. And, his last jobs, he was doing like Vegas shows in, like cheesy comic Vegas shows, to put food on the table.
It's a weird game. Fame and fortune is battery acid to the soul.
Yeah.
Because it plays weird games with you. And if you don't know who you are,
it takes time sometimes to know who you are.
It does. It does. But if you don't in your business, even in my business, you'll lose your way, because you'll feel, well, am I slipping a little bit? Am I not? And it just messes with your head. And then you have to decide, is it worth? Are you going to do that? You're going to change? Are you going to do that for that?
Yeah.
Or you know who you are?
Yeah. And if you're
it doesn't matter.
Like if you're a kid from Houston, working class, parents, there's not a whole lot of, you really get raised to know what to do in those situations. Right. You have to kind of learn it yourself.
Yeah.
I'm lucky enough to have been in those situations that I was in, and also lucky enough to have gotten through a lot of those things. But it was also when God closes a door, and he opens another one. And I think with Reagan, it was a lot of his life was based on finding God's purpose for his life. I mean, truly. And, he became, when acting starts to kind of like fade, a lot of actors, Ed Asner being one of them, and several others, you become president of the Screen Actors Guild.
Right.
So, and was his entry into politics there. And he was fighting communists in that role as well, because the communists, that was back during the McCarthy era. They were trying to take over the unions.
Right. You cover this a bit in the movie, and I've always heard that he was really torn on that. He didn't like the going in and turning people, having to give names, but he didn't have a problem if they were communist, if they were a problem.
Yeah. And well, his whole idea too about communism, whereas what do you think, we were trying to root it out of our system. And when he went to testify, that he testified with saying that, you ought to just allow communism in here because our system can handle it. That's what the American system is all about.
Yes.
The freedom to form a political party.
Isn't it weird that, when you started, I said, why was he here? Because he won the Cold War. And he did. But isn't it weird that we're kind of back to where we were, except the love of country that he had and all of that seems to be fading in popular culture. Communism is on the rise inside our country as well as all around the world. And it seems like we have to fight it all over again.
Well, I think that's America. And I think it's happened time and time again. In fact, right off the bat, it was after we formed as a country, there was the Whiskey Rebellion that Washington had to go put down. Then we had the War of 1812. And then we had, westward expansion and what was going to be a slave state or a free state. The Civil War solved that one. Then we went into another thing, which...
So are you an optimist? You feel like...
I believe in the American people. I do. And, it is sometimes a big, great experiment that sometimes doesn't, goes flat.
I like Churchill when he said, trust the American people, they'll get it wrong, but eventually they'll figure it out and get it right.
Get it right. Well, the last time that, the most similar times to today are, I would say, the 60s and 70s, that... culminated, the end of that was Ronald Reagan getting elected to office. And that was a big experiment. It was tumultuous.
Would Reagan work today?
Yeah, I think Reagan would work today. Yeah, he definitely would work today. But I think that's what people are yearning for, really, is a return to really kind of common sense and
decency. I love the fact
I've
been watching his speeches for a while now, and I just love the fact that he would always walk out and he'd be like, Republican and Democrat walk into a bar, and he's not tearing people down. He's just telling us a simple joke.
He always opened.
I love that.
But we also back at this time we had liberal Republicans, we had conservative Democrats.
Yeah.
And
I pined for the Democrat of Joe Lieberman.
Yeah, that was.
I love Joe.
That was like the last. The closest we came is probably Joe Manchin recently.
Yeah,
and the closest we came to that.
Right, and I think there's a great distance between them, but it is it's at least recognizable.
I think the great hope for any of that would be RFK. Tell you the truth, as far as being able to reach cross party or really not even be about party. Be about America and where we are and where we're going. Yeah, I don't agree with probably most of his ideas. But I
know.
you know, we can have a conversation.
Yeah.
And
I just had a conversation. He called, when I was on CNN, he said that I should be tried for treason and executed. And
Really?
Yeah.
well,
And
like I said, don't agree with most of his ideas, but I don't know
Once
the
in a
full
while.
story on that one.
Yeah, but we had a great conversation, you know?
Yeah.
Had a great conversation.
Yeah.
And he said, I've revised some of my viewpoints on some of these,
Yeah.
some of these things.
It's enough of a struggle just to live our lives and try to keep tyranny at bay day after day, without also having to deal with pain on a regular basis. If you're in constant pain or just occasional really bad pain, you can count yourself out. We need absolutely everybody in this fight. You're here for a reason. Now, the biggest cause of our pain is inflammation in our joints. I know because I used to have it in my hands really badly. I couldn't button my own shirt sometimes. I'd have to get my wife would get up in the morning and button my shirts. I couldn't do that. What changed in my life was my wife insisted that I try Relief Factor. I didn't think it would work for me. Well, I got my life back. You might get your life back as well. There's only one way to know. If you're living with aches and pains, see for yourself how Relief Factor, a daily drug-free supplement, could help you live and feel better every day. Join the over 1 million people who have turned to Relief Factor and have started feeling better in 3 weeks or less. Just visit relieffactor.com. Call them at 800-4-RELIEF, 800 the number 4 relief. Save on your first order. That's 800 the number 4 relief, relieffactor.com.
Can I go into the downfall in your life for a while?
Yeah, sure.
Because I want to talk about what you're doing now with music and everything else. And I don't know, how important is a real downfall to really finding yourself and God and having that deep connection?
I don't think one should go looking for it.
Right.
You know, like
Yeah.
we all wanted to be James Dean back then, you know, to have that angst
Right.
and stuff. But I think it steals yourself as a person, and I think that's where you really find about what you're made of, and who you are. There maybe are some people that are lucky in life to know who they are or whatever, but you know, I went through a few periods in my life, you know, that's just a deepening.
Yeah.
You know, I sometimes feel it's like God's pruning. And, you know, when I found myself in bad situations, it was all my own fault. So, you know, all that stuff my mother said, you know, worked out for it. But I found myself, wait a minute, you know. So you get to a point of surrender. You know, I was back in the 70s and 80s. I was, you know, I got into cocaine, you know. Like back then.
Was that Jerry Lee Lewis?
That culminated in Jerry Lee Lewis. I mean, cocaine, when it came along in the 70s, I remember a cover story of cocaine, you know, that was like they just discovered it or something. And they were saying it was non-addictive and all that. You know, that all worked until John Belushi.
Yeah.
But there are three phases of that, just like with any addiction, really, where it's fun, and then it's fun with problems, and then it's just problems, you know, and the rest of your life just doesn't work. And, you know, I think I got to that point, I guess. I know I got to that point, but I went into rehab like 1990, and I was lucky enough to get it the first time and get that out of my life.
Good for you.
You know, and that really began kind of a second, because the program that you go through with addiction is a spiritual program. That's what they say. It's a spiritual problem, and indeed
I think
it is, because you're using whatever you're using, or you know, or whatever your addiction is, because to fill that hole inside you, which works. for quite a while.
Yeah, and then it doesn't.
Until it doesn't, and that, that needs to be like an eternal thing in
Right.
order to be a real thing.
Right.
And that's what I've read the Bible now like 5 times through different
Phases.
parts of my life. And I got disillusioned with what I call churchianity. I grew up in the Baptist church, and I got disillusioned with the churchianity back in the 70s, and I read Hermann Hesse's Siddhartha, which opened Buddhism and to me. And when I went around the world, I read the Quran, I read the Dhammapada, I read the Bhagavad Gita, and then I came back, I read the Bible again, and when I got a rehab, I did that, and I was really struck by the red words of Jesus, which that was what really hit me more than any of the other books. And I came to realize what a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, is all about, or started to know what that was all about, because it is a relationship that grows and that ebbs, according to the attention that's paid to it, just like any other relationship.
Yeah.
And but is always there. And how real that is to me. It's about a personal relationship.
Yeah.
And that is the thing that really runs through all religions, I think, is the search for that.
Right. Right. I'm an alcoholic. I don't know if you know that, but I'm an alcoholic, and our journey is very similar. I think most people with addictions would say
Yeah.
that, but and I didn't know what a personal relationship was like. And there are times, and it would always be this way if I were, always in the right place. But there are times he is my absolute best friend.
Yeah.
And when you're in that space, and when you're in that space, anything can happen to you, and you'll be like, doesn't matter.
Right.
Doesn't matter. I'm cool. He's
Right.
got it.
A lot of people, who are not believers or whatever, it's hard to understand that.
Yeah,
It's always been hard for me to understand that too. But, because that's a crutch, or it's like it's some fairy tale about heaven or this or that.
Yeah.
But Jesus, the way I read it and feel it and experience it, Jesus came, in the red words of Jesus, he came here to teach us about heaven afterwards, but more importantly, how to have heaven on earth.
Correct.
That was the main message, in fact.
Yeah.
Was about how to experience heaven on earth.
Love God,
Which is
love yourself, love your neighbor.
The kingdom of heaven is spread out upon the earth, and man cannot see
Yeah.
it, because it's about looking inward, and it's about just asking.
Yeah.
And it's also incredibly simple. It's exactly what it said. Yeah, but that's what I've come to know and cultivate. Everybody gets all wrapped up in sin and stuff like that. And Jesus took away our sins. I think what Jesus was actually saying to us is that we ourselves, just like heaven exists here on earth, and here's how to get to it, but we live as we go along out of our kid phase, and we live in hell inside of ourselves. We either have guilt or the things that we should have or think we should have that really kind of tear us up inside. And it was, Jesus came along, and it's about giving up on that. It's as much as being forgiven of sin, it's more about just throwing it away inside yourself.
I think that's the secret of heaven, is
Yeah.
being able to accept, okay, I did that, but it doesn't, it's not, it's in my past, and it doesn't matter, and I know who I am.
And that doesn't mean necessarily it's
No.
going to be poof,
No,
tomorrow.
no.
But
Oh,
you
I think
can
it's
start to cultivate
every single
You can start
day.
to cultivate a voice inside your head.
Yes.
That that will get you there. I mean, I myself, I experienced actually in the last 8 years is, what I would say the equivalent of a kind of a nervous breakdown, to tell you the truth, because I was turning 60, which freaked me out. But there were a lot of things going on in my life that I wasn't being authentic to myself. I think I was showing one thing to the world, but I was inside. And wasn't a terrible person or anything, but it was like just things in me that
needed realignment.
Yeah, it needed realignment, and I drew upon that personal relationship to get there. And it's a voice that in one's head. The voice that tells you you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, and people don't like you. The Saturday Night Live skit. Well, we all have that voice inside our head, and sometimes that voice can take over, and it keeps you from it keeps you from being who you are. And funny enough, it along with Jesus, was Yoko Ono.
Along with Jesus,
who really kind of like gave me a little
you get
tidbit.
You get your hippie card back.
Tidbit to get out of it. She said after John, she just practiced. She went 6 months. She was a wreck, and she just started like smiling at herself in the mirror or trying to, and she didn't believe it for 6 months. But it actually turned into genuine, and it's about really looking into yourself, and really seeing yourself, and nurturing yourself. And
wanting to.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I looked at myself in a mirror for a long time and saying, you're worthless, you're weak. How can this happen to you? And my dad said, start saying things that you want to believe about yourself and look yourself in the eye.
Yeah.
Boy, there's a long time you look yourself.
Well, I heard it from Yoko Ono.
Yeah.
I didn't even like Yoko Ono before that, to tell you the truth. The Beatles thing going way back there. But, I realized, that, happiness is a choice. Or that way. I hate to say the word happiness because it's such a blanket thing, but it's what can I say? It's a feeling of wholeness inside.
Peace.
Yeah. A feeling of authenticity. And once you kind of like, they say confess your sins or this or that. What it is, it's a throwing off of it. And then you're free.
Yeah.
You're free of all that. And so that was a deepening. And I feel that, like I said, God's pruning, or, I'm still enjoying the lessons. I thought, by the time I got to be 60 or by the time I got to be 70, I would have, figured it all out, been through all those like phases of my life. But then again, I didn't realize that I never knew what it was like to be 60, and I never knew what it was like to be 70. Why would you have things figured out?
I'm listening to your album, and it's amazing to hear. I think there's a huge difference between. You see the Johnny Cash movie?
Yeah, for sure.
So remember the time when he walks into Sam Phillips' studio and he gets the audition and he's playing and he's like, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. You have the same kind of feeling, I think, that Johnny Cash had, where you can tell you earned that. You can tell you mean that.
Yeah, you're talking about my gospel record.
Yes.
I guess,
Yeah,
because that was very personal.
Yeah,
and,
please don't give up on me is really.
In fact, the half the musicians that are on that record were Johnny Cash's last studio band. In fact, yeah.
Wow.
In fact, and it was very personal. I know what you're talking about. Is you can feel that I'd been through what I was singing about. It turned out it was very obvious. My spiritual journey through life.
Yeah,
was what it was.
So what's next on that?
On that, what with music?
Yeah.
I'm kind of working on a kids record right now.
Really?
Yeah. yeah, there aren't enough of them anymore, I think.
Like, what's a kid's?
Well, like, songs like, does your chewing gum lose its flavor with a bedpost overnight?
Right.
Or remember when you ran away and I got on my knees? And that was a kid's song, come on. And I got this song called The Jungle, which I wrote when I was 21, actually, put on there. And, it's a little bit more secular, but kid songs.
Yeah.
There's a whole market out there that nobody's touched.
Most self-defense situations can be handled with a gun, but that doesn't mean they all should be handled with a gun. I believe wholeheartedly in the Second Amendment. I'm a gun owner. I carry a gun. But I also believe in the power of having options. The best alternative is the Byrna launcher. I have it. Members of my family have it. Members of my team have it as well. It's a great complement to our firearms. There are situations where less lethal is the way to go, and Byrna is the best alternative to deadly force. It fires powerful deterrents like tear gas and kinetic rounds. This is not, pepper spray. This is something that will incapacitate an attacker for up to 40 minutes. Government agencies and police departments all over the country rely now on Byrna every day as their go-to, less lethal option. It works for them. I think it'll work for you too. Sometimes you have to choose between life and death, but that isn't every situation. Please, just go to Byrna.com and check them out right now. They're made in Fort Wayne, Indiana. It's Byrna, BYRNA.com/Glenn. You'll get a 10% discount. It's Byrna.com/Glenn.
Cool. Let's just talk about where are we as a world right now?
I don't know. You tell me.
I don't know.
Nobody knows, right?
I know. It's weird because we've been through all of this before.
Yeah.
Over and over again. I mean, like some of it is almost exactly what we've been through before. But for some reason, we don't look to history to figure out, okay, well, don't do that.
It seemed like before, when we went through it before, there were actually leaders.
Adults.
Leaders on our allies' side and
on their side.
And on their side, or even in the domestic situation, you had leaders within that. We had Martin Luther King, you had Malcolm X, you had SDS leaders, Abby Hoffman, blah, blah, blah. People who actually kind of like spoke up for everybody, in a sense, And when it comes to like Islamic terrorism, who speaks for that? No, I don't know.
Yeah.
Even Black Lives Matter was like, who were the leaders of that?
Right.
That were like up front speaking for that.
Right.
It just seemed like a movement, even all this political correctness and it just in that sense, there's some way to have a conversation about it instead of just this kind of, which no wonder people are saying, that there's a dark government, out there, but with the faceless people that are controlling everything.
Yeah.
And you get the feeling that I don't know, but I also do feel that it's, like I said, it's a cycle that all of us are working out as individuals and as the American people. And I think the world feels right now like it's been turned upside down, but I'm actually starting to see signs of it turning side up.
Yeah. Common sense seems to be, we lost it entirely for a while. And it seems to be, I think people are tired of supposedly having to hate their neighbor and people who vote. I don't care how you vote. I really don't. Can we agree on some certain principles? We don't.
Right. Exactly. I'm of the same.
Yeah.
At least can we make like individual
liberty
decisions
on
our own instead of just taking some mandate that's been
correct,
told that we have to, it's mandatory that we have to think this way, say these things, and I'm talking about on both sides of the aisle,
I know.
really.
I know.
You know, you feel like you can't cross that line or you're going to be,
Right.
you know, a traitor.
Right.
And
What happened to the individual, the rugged individual that was the American ideal? That you would look, buddy. I don't agree with you on everything.
Yeah.
But good luck.
Right.
Good luck, and I mean that sincerely. And hey, let's go have a beer or whatever.
right. Well, Tip O'Neill and
Yeah.
Ronald Reagan did have that. That was one of the things.
They also had certain principles in common.
That was the main thing about Reagan, is that he had principles in his life and he governed by those principles.
Right.
And if you have principles, then it doesn't matter. Political party goes out the window.
Correct.
Because if you have those principles, you're going to make an unpopular decision with whoever voted you in because it's the best thing to do for the whole. And Reagan definitely had that going on. That's how he won the Cold War. It gives you patience too with
Yeah.
other people and with,
Yeah.
for allowing something to unfold.
So how do we get back there?
I guess one little step at a time. I think it starts at home, in our relationships with our friends, local community. You know, it really got to the point where people, if you find out if they're Democrats or you find out they're Republicans, you would just, there's this label that goes up on them, and they're out the door, and on both sides too. You know, we got to break that down. We pass each other on the street every day. We're in each other's shops. You know, we go to school with people, on the other side. And, then we find out they're either a Democrat or a Republican or this or that. And all of a sudden,
They're horrible people.
What's changed? Only us.
Yes.
We have to look inside ourselves.
Yeah.
Really, in order to find that.
Are the churches doing their part?
I feel actually that the churches, or people who go to church or religiously minded, was going down for so long, ever since, I guess, the end of World War II. But I think it's coming back. I think COVID, as horrible as COVID was, I think it was also, in a way, that's what a spiritual revolution looks like, or a revival is what it looks like, because it forced people to get out of their routines that they were obsessed about and the way we lived, brought them home. The kids were home. We were all together. We had to get through this together. And there was a lot of death going on. It made you think about what's
Things are
important.
real.
What is important,
Yeah.
And a lot of people go running to God when things are bad. Hey, that's okay. That's
Yeah,
fine too,
yeah,
right?
right.
But it forces you to look inwardly, and that's, I think it's not full bloom yet, but
The seeds are planted.
yeah, the seeds are planted. I really do
watered.
think that. I really do believe that.
I agree.
And I have faith.
Yeah.
That's where Reagan and I guess, we're the same. We're both actors, and I think we both have a sunny disposition down at the bottom of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Show you just a couple of Reagan things. George Washington's glasses.
Where?
Right here. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. This is what was held down at his side on Inauguration Day, 1980.
So he could
Yeah.
do his lines.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
It's kind of a combination of different eras.
It is.
Actually.
Yeah. It is.
It's kind of like the very beginning of his presidency, and it's also kind of a little bit of his Hollywood stuff, too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you have a good time, Peter? Well, I'm good. Good. Did you have a good time? Good.
As he began his song and sang the heartfelt words, "May God smile down on you," I couldn't help but feel the strength of his faith and the warmth of his optimism. Friends, don't mourn for the death of the morning in America. Sure, it's shaping up to be a nasty day, but like Reagan, Dennis Quaid understands that faith isn't a denial of reality. It's the courage to face it with the God in whom we trust.
When you're pulling back the shade, when you're kicking off your shoes at the end of the day, when you just need someone to tell your troubles to, I will be listening, baby. Tell me everything. Just let go, let your sweet soul sing. I will take care of you. Don't be afraid. 'Cause each and every night, oh, each and every night, I pray that may your wildest dreams come true. May the light shine down on you. May God bless your every breath. May your wildest dreams come true. May your wildest dreams come true. And may God smile down on you.
Fantastic.
Thank you.